Hello and welcome to yet another video of I Talk About Things. This week I will be talking about children. I will be talking about predators in South Africa, specifically child predators. These are very sensitive topics. There's mentions of CSAM and other triggering topics. So please, if you are sensitive to any of the topics that I will be mentioning, please just switch off, go offline, take a minute, have a sip of water, and just breathe. And hopefully, I will see you in the next video. Viewer discretion is advised. However, if you are brave enough to walk this journey with me, then let's talk about it.
This is a very distressing story, so if you want to scroll on, please do. Yet again, another child, 7-year-old Twetwe in South Africa, is brutally essayed in school. When I say brutally, the details are so graphic that they're difficult to discuss, but you can look up the story. The shock and horror of this tale is that the principal of the school, who has become one of the suspects, is refusing to give his DNA sample. 2 other people who are also under investigation have complied. However, he has refused. When challenged by the girl's mother after it was confirmed that she had been brutally essayed front and back, she was in so much agony she could not walk. It was confirmed by medics that she had been penetrated both from the front and the back. This principal spoke to the parents, minimizing what happened, told them not to make a scene, told the mother that she was not being professional, and refused outright blankly to cooperate with the authorities to give a sample. The school has been deregistered. Principal should be brought to justice and should be forced to comply. If he is innocent and there is nothing to hide, then why is he refusing? This is an incredibly disturbing case. It just raises the question that are our children not safe in school either? The world is a scary place right now, and I urge parents to be vigilant at all times. This mother has taken to social media. She is fighting for justice. She is fighting for her child. Kudos to her that she has found the strength to do that, despite the fact that she herself was a victim of SA. We need to empower our girls, our women, our children. We need to give victims a voice. We need to find collective power. Justice for Twetwe.
South Africa has normalized sexual abuse, and it has festered all the way to the children. Sexual abuse is disturbing and traumatizing for both victims and their loved ones. The pain is a liquid feeling which constantly changes form, yet able to return to its original intensity with seamless ease. The transformation is sudden and often occurs multiple times a day. Being part of a victim's community can be very traumatic and stress-inducing, as it sneakily becomes a lifelong part of you, an inescapable and unwelcomed life partner. Then you, the support, become victims yourself, and the additional trauma compounds to the former, and the intensity births a new level of hurt and complex emotions. With this in mind, why is it that South Africa has normalized the sexual abuse of children? If adults struggle to effectively deal with this trauma, why would children, with their innocence and lack of understanding, be expected to somehow cope? When these children grow up and finally understand what happened, their worlds and innocence inevitably crumble, leading to the crushing realization that no one cared enough to fight for their protection, which would beg the question, why would they now? Leaving us with a country full of angry and lonely young adults. This normalization of abuse, like many other societal issues, is often caused by societal contracts that become ingrained in our culture. So, what is a social contract? A social contract is an implicit agreement among the members of society to cooperate for social benefits, for example, by sacrificing some individual freedom for state protection. These contracts appear in every nook and cranny of the world. Some are as fleeting as a measly one-time bet to being as massive as a nation's unwritten patriotic rule and expectations formed by its citizens. Such contracts inevitably get used so often that they, over time, become seamlessly engraved in everyday life. This highlights how something as innocent as an inside joke, like why everybody calls grandma Glammy, or a colloquial term like mabena or slap tiger, gets absorbed by children. If no one explains to them what they truly are, they consequently become part of generational traditions, culture, and even societal and social norms, which can be kept and honored for generations. Or because their developing view and understanding of the world could not distinguish fiction from truth, because we are taught to listen to our parents and we follow their lead. Now, Imagine a generation bragging to their friends about their risky sexual encounters and habits in the presence of children. Even if the parents tried to rectify this, the damage would have already been done. This is the root of this video's problem. Children failing to understand that there are behaviors and actions which are sexually charged and attract unwanted attention, including attire, physical aesthetics like makeup, hair and nails, and language. And this is not to victim blame, however, it is to show adults, specifically parents, that these things they easily fall between the cracks. This inevitably leaves them open to abuse and exploitation because once they gain that attention, nowhere becomes safe. The term blessers has become a trending and exploitative topic in the country. A blesser is an old person, normally men, who solicits sex from children in exchange for money. People decorate it by calling it a relationship because, unlike prostitution, the social contract here is considered mutually beneficial. The woman gives the man the idea of feeling of being in a relationship with a slave queen, which is a group of women who are considered most gorgeous and are typically young. And the man affords her a luxurious lifestyle. Now, it is important to note that these children and these men are typically in very exploitative relationships. And I use the word relationship very loosely because children cannot consent. I call it exploitative because children cannot consent to such topics or to such matters, and these men prey on children knowing full well that what they are doing is rape and that if it were to be reported, they would find themselves before a judge in court. However, because of social contracts that we have in place as a country, these men are allowed to continue with this very disturbing behavior because they are protected by society. Because we are still, especially Black South Africa, we are still a community of secrecy and protecting men by forcing the victims to keep quiet and glorifying victimhood. The central aspect is the slave queen part of this equation. These young girls understand that these men will not go for a girl who is not of that caliber and looks inexperienced because she might get scared and report them. So they adopt this slave queen persona, which in turn affords them a blesser. Once a child gets entrapped in that cycle, she is stuck, especially with what social media has become. A child will get entrapped by men on social media, and children easily fall into the category of being a slave queen because they now get to see on social media how older women are doing it, and they are therefore taking the age limit of being a slave queen from probably ages 20 to somewhere around 16, because some of these children are below 16 that are displaying these tendencies online. Once a child gets entrapped in that cycle, she is stuck. A predatory cycle of exploitation and manipulation, especially for first-timers who happen to be children. It often starts with him taking her out, buying her alcohol, drugs, clothes, etc. He ensures that her every need is met, specifically financial needs she does not want for anything. This will make her indebted to him. And when he asks for sex, he will do it subtly and he will make it clear that she is in fact indebted to him. So even if he takes out his ring light and camera, she cannot refuse. She has to star in that video. Young children do not stop to consider that this might be a honey trap. Young children do not stop to consider that this might be a honey trap. They also do not have the money to repay these men or the means to do so. And they therefore cannot refuse because the consensus, the unspoken rule was that in order for you to be given these things, you have to repay me with your body. The honey trap. For young women, it is easier for them to escape the trap because they have more life experiences and they have actually built a community of mature and maturing people that can assist them. Children, on the other hand, cannot even argue or defend their cases without being emotional and inarticulate. These predators understand that these children don't even have communities to rely on because they shouldn't be doing what they're doing in the first place, and that they will most probably be avoiding the questions coming their way. And their parents might even punish them if they were to find out about their slave queening tendencies. So they trap these children and easily force them into accepting compensation for sexual and physical abuse, which is basically prostitution. They coerce children into prostitution. They exploit children and they use money as justification as it allows them to do this heinous act. A child will accept any amount of money. Right now, it is easy to see how porn can lead to the sexualization of children and how this might transpire in South Africa. Upon understanding what a blesser is and what the social contract is around the concept, it is important to highlight that women can be blessers, but the rules change because they get attached easier. For women, it tends to be a more emotional contract or a more emotional relationship than it is financial, which is why with women it isn't typically considered a blesser slash slay queen relationship, but rather a cougar relationship with a child. However, the mere fact that she is involved with a child and even engaging in sexual activities with him makes her a predator. No excuses should be made for her, and she deserves to be persecuted and held accountable for her acts just as much as the men. In poor families and communities, children are encouraged to be in exploitative relationships and become burdened with taking care of the family financially. Simply put, some parents choose to exploit their children to escape poverty. The perfect examples: 6-year-old Jocelyn Smith, who was allegedly trafficked by her mother, and later on was baby Kutlwano, who was allegedly sold for 75,000 rands by her mother. These are the reported cases that gain huge media coverage. But what about the little girls and boys who never got their stories out or have their abusers be held accountable before the people and the state? Even though these cases are incredibly useful looking classes, incredibly useful pieces of information, this should be terrifying, because how many more children are sold into slavery? How many more children are trafficked by their parents? With Jocelyn, unfortunately, the case was allegedly for drug money. The mother needed money to feed her drug abuse, to feed her drug addiction, to feed her tendencies with drugs. So it isn't always just poverty. Social media has seen the unofficial but seemingly globally accepted name given to South Africa as the home of Big Nyash and beautiful women. In fact, a post that has the word South Africa in it gains significant traction because there seems to be a general interest around the world with South Africa. However, the locals already knew that amazing figures and I guess great genes or something that we have is something that we are born with, and therefore when you see a woman who has an incredible figure, it doesn't shock you as much as it seems to have shocked the rest of the world. Not only that, local predators and exploiters have perfected the art of subtly using cultural norms and already established social contexts to abuse the most vulnerable whilst preying on this topic or this issue of the home of big bodies or the home of beautiful bodies. And the most vulnerable being the poor, the children, and the elderly. They exploit them sexually and even selling the abuse for profit, which Given the recent interest in the country, it is easy to assume that this exploitative form of making money has grown significantly. A good example is the shocking case of Darren Wilkin and Tonya Moodley, who were allegedly reported in the USA by a child that stumbled across the CSAM website to the FBI in the United States. While I assume most parents would do anything to protect their children from their abusers, reality tells me that with the way the economy is today, we must expect more Jocelyn and Gudrano cases in the news and in our courts, and we have seen more Darren and Tonya cases in the news, unfortunately. Social media platforms also informs me of such. Social media platforms also inform me as much because when teenagers, I can at least hope that these children are in their late teens. When they tell their story times on social media, specifically TikTok, sometimes my blood runs cold. Even adult story times on social media make me concerned because they are children on this app, and these children inevitably turn to telling these bone chilling story times because the template is given to them by adults, specifically grown women. These story times are especially unsettling because these people should understand that social media is easily accessible for children. There are children all over social media. In fact, it is easy to assume that social media was in fact created with children as the original target audience. So an adult, typically a grown woman, coming on social media and telling the world about their sexual escapades in a story time should have us concerned. And even a how to should at least be opened with disclaimers letting children and parents know that no child should be listening to this right now, because even how-to videos, you just never know what you could be listening to. However, I cannot ignore the wonderful looking glass that social media has been for me regarding this topic. I have limited exposure to gay communities, and the few people that I do know were not and are not close enough to me to approach and ask certain questions. So social media has honestly been a gift in that I get to ask questions, I get to be educated, and I get to not be ignorant, and hopefully a good and hopefully a good ally that adds to the community in positive and meaningful ways, even if it's one person at a time. It was only after I got a chance in varsity that I started exploring my interests and curiosities more. I learned about the LGBTQIA, though it is important to mention that varsity for me was during and after COVID, so I didn't much experience it because we were locked in the house. So still social media. I learned that the LGBTQIA plus communities in South Africa are potentially far more exploitative than normal heterosexual relationships. Young boys in South Africa could potentially be in far more danger than the girls because the community's tendencies towards secrecy place these children in imminent danger. When a child discovers that he might be attracted to men, the shame and secrecy also manifest because legally it is okay to be gay and proud, but reality says otherwise. These predatory men already know this, and they know that the majority of boys who do accept their advances are probably closeted and have every reason to keep their relationship a secret. Some online experts and doctors often claim that these overly sexual children are a result of or indicate sexual abuse as children. One does not need to be an expert to instinctively assume this. How can an adult perceive a child displaying disturbing sexual and sexually charged behavior and motives and not get concerned? Instead, they opt to indulge in this disturbing behavior. Once I understood a little bit more on this topic, many things began to dawn on me. Very nuanced things that I failed to notice growing up. Little did I know that they stemmed from child sexualization and that they robbed many of us of our childhood. Sexualizing children is effectively robbing them of their childhood. And the following points perpetuate them even in adulthood, especially those who go out of their way to mimic and praise them beyond normalcy. I used to think that short people, especially women, were very adorable, and I even wished I was short. Being a tall girl myself, I genuinely wanted to be short because I thought it was a privilege, which it was, much like pretty privilege. I failed to realize that this was associating grown people with children or fantasizing over their childlike attributes or features. That height is easily associated with that of a child. I must admit, for most people, there is nothing wrong with preferring short people. However, there are some people who do it out of negative intentions. I do not have anything against people who have this preference. However, I have noticed that some men who openly agree to liking short women often end up dating significantly younger women too. This is my perceived truth, implying that they would cross that line if she happens to be a child. Before we move on to healthy sexual conduct, I would like to share a quick TMI. So, I used to consume porn. I feel I can talk about this because I do have personal experience. I was introduced to it in high school by someone I considered a friend. However, the friendship did not make it to the end of the year. We were probably friends for, I want to say, 10 months. It began as an interest, but ended with it began as an interest but ended with me deciding to become celibate and refusing to consume anything that is sexually suggestive. I also habitually consume true crime content. I also habitually consume true crime content and content centered around children and how to help them blossom in favorable environments. And here are some of my reasons why. Number one, I felt like I was forced into participating in criminal activities. Once I had an understanding, or once it dawned on me what was happening, it felt as if though I was helping perpetuate abuse. During lockdown, the amateur category began to feel a little too real. It was incredibly unsettling. Plus, the rainbow category was being pushed a little too hard on us. It got to a point where I stopped watching for entertainment or pleasure and I began researching subconsciously because I just wanted to see if I was looking too much into this or if these were actually valid concerns that I had. I knew something had shifted and I noticed myself paying attention to the word choices used on titles and descriptions of these videos. I also began paying more attention to comments because people comment on porn videos, they critique. Yeah, people critique. It's quite a disturbing, it's a disturbing world. It's okay, let's move on. A quick Google search will show you a number of activists and doctors deep diving on pornography, on porn sites, and how they are linked, and how they even perpetuate child sex trafficking and financial gain on the production and distribution of CSAM. This is a very lucrative business. A lot of people seek out CSAM. A lot of people produce CSAM, and a lot of people are willing to do the unthinkable for the production and distribution of CSAM. People prey on children. These sites give pedophiles communities and a sense of security and community. I think it is important to mention that I have since found out that even social media platforms deal in CSAM via group chats. They buy and sell CSAM and other rape content on social media while we go there to laugh and get dance lessons. I found that Telegram is the preferred social media platform for illegal and often sexually exploitative content because of the level of security that people get in those chats. Every time Telegram shows up on my feed, it's linked to a case of trafficking. It's linked to extreme crimes, crimes against humanity. Telegram will be mentioned. I am yet to be proven wrong, and yet it is still an active site, last I checked. Upon realizing that me consuming even the obviously scripted and edited porn videos was me basically rewarding abusers and encouraging them to continue because these models, as is with the case that recently trended in South Africa, many of the women who were invited for jobs because they applied for jobs. I believe the ad was for models. They did not know that they would when they got there. They did not know or even imagine that they would be part of a porn video. When they got there, they had to film the content and got exploited. So even if she's smiling in that video, she could very well have been told to smile for the camera or else. It broke my heart when it dawned on me just how vulnerable little boys actually are. Before this, I just figured that men were strong and that they would never be susceptible to abuse, especially sexual abuse, but I was very wrong. And it is time that we boycotted these sites and urged the country to burn them altogether. Protecting our children starts with us protesting online before mobilizing on the streets. Each time I think about what I was doing and how naive I was, I get ashamed. I feel as if though I helped victimize those people and I do not know how to apologize or repent outside raising awareness. I truly hope that all victims of C7 rape, whether the victimization was broadcasted or not, find peace and that God shields them from further hurt. Point number two, soft porn is not safe for anyone. Porn is porn. I would argue that I got into pornography via soft porn. Before that friend showed me where to go on the internet, I was greatly interested and curious to know. I expressed this to her and I even asked her to direct me, an interest that rose from suggestions I got everywhere, even on primetime TV, which was deemed safe for children. I genuinely believe that the media is conditioning children and keeping hooked adults addicted. I should know. I fell victim to the trap. However, I have always been shy and timid, so having a blister was something that scared me a lot. It breaks my heart how, when I see that nowadays soft porn content creators are allowed to post on social media where kids hang out and they cross the boundary here and there and are allowed to do so with little to no consequence. I genuinely hope that this rave of OnlyFans does not reach our children, though I am inclined to believe that perhaps it has already. We really do need to band together in prayer and protest as a nation because we need to show our children that someone cared enough to ensure that they were safe, even when they couldn't understand what they were being protected from.